Hello and welcome to In the Flow, and we are doing the Eclipse edition. As we all know, the eclipse is coming up on Monday, April 8th. So Robin and I are going to talk a little bit about the eclipse, but we also want to get into what we've been feeling in this eclipse portal between the lunar eclipse in Libra and this solar eclipse in Aries. So go ahead, Robin, tell us what we got going on.
Oh yeah, I don't know if y'all have been feeling it. We not only have the energy of the eclipse, which is really powerful, concentrated energy, but then we also have a lot of these solar flares, which maybe Jessica can speak to later because I don't know a ton about those. I just know how they affect me emotionally and physically. So let's just for a moment, let's take a step back and talk about what a solar eclipse is. So a solar eclipse is a new moon. So it's when the moon and the sun are right next to each other. Right, we're in Aries season right now where the sun is transiting the constellation of Aries and the moon is right next to it, which creates this new moon. And it is an eclipse because, let me see if I can get my science correct. And you could probably help me on this because my brain's still. So right, is it the moon that is moving between the sun and the earth? No, the
So,
sun.
yes, the moon is moving in between the sun and the earth. Or wait, no. Now we're going to test our knowledge. So,
Yeah.
lunar eclipse is when the earth moves between the sun and the moon, which causes the moon to not have the sun light. And the solar eclipse is when I want to say it's when the moon moves between, it's when the moon moves between the earth and the sun. So we would normally be getting sunlight and the moon comes flying through there and blots out so that
Blocks
we
out.
don't
Yeah.
have sunlight for a little while.
Okay. So the reason that astrology is so important to us and can show us so much about our human experience is because of the spiritual concept of as above, so below, right? So these points in the sky are indicators or representations of aspects of our humanness, right? So if we think about the sun can be thought of as like your ego, it's your personality, maybe how you show up in the world, right? Most of the time when you talk to people, they know their sun sign, even if they don't know anything else about astrology, even if they don't know what it's called, most people know their sun sign. So when you think about energetically blocking out the energy of the sun, right, it kind of throws our system for a loop. Like we're not used to it. It's not something that happens like very frequently. And I was actually listening to something the other day that was saying this particular kind of eclipse that we're having, the cycle typically happens like every 450 years. So this is also like a really rare occurrence on April 8th. I don't think we're going to have the next one. We may not even be here the next time that a similar solar eclipse happens. So again, to remind us that these are big energies. So what happens when we have these eclipse points is they come in and they bring in this awareness of things that have been hidden. So, right, if we're moving along in life and we have all these things that we're trying to do and these wounds that are kind of hidden from us, when we have such a drastic cutting off of the light, it forces those shadows to come up and to be made aware, which is so beautiful for our healing, for our awareness, for our growth. But it's not always easy. And right now we are in between the two eclipses. So we have 2 to 3 eclipse seasons a year. And the season is, we have two eclipses typically. So we had, right, the March 25th eclipse, and then we have one on April 8th. So that's one eclipse season. And then I think we just have one more this year. I don't think we have three. So we'll have one later on in the year. Right. And these are all about cycles kind of closing and completing. So there are a few cycles, and I'm sure the ones that we're going to share, there's probably even more, but the ones that we're going to get into today, there's a cycle closing from 7 years ago, and there's also a cycle closing from 19 years ago. And it's ironic, right? Because the eclipse is at 19 degrees of Aries. So that's kind of fascinating that, we find those numerology, blah, blah, blah. Mercury is also retrograde. So y'all bear with, I don't know if Jessica's feeling quite as tongue tied as I am, but yeah, you know what I mean. So before we get in deeper, like how have you been feeling, Jessica?
It has been a very intense season, and that's where I'll get into a little bit. Well, I'll go ahead and mention it right now. So not only do we have this huge eclipse going on, but it is activating. There are so many things in the sky right around this eclipse. So Robin mentioned this 19 degrees of Aries, which we also have the moon at 19 degrees Aries, the sun at 19 degrees Aries, Chiron at 19 degrees of Aries, and then we have a conjunction to Mercury in retrograde and a conjunction to the North Node. And all of these are in Aries. So all of these things are being affected by this energy that's coming through. So for me, it's been wild. I've had a little bit of a rash over my throat for like 2 or 3 weeks, like pretty much since the lunar eclipse happened. So I'm definitely clearing a lot of trauma out of the throat chakra. And we think, North Node, Chiron, Mercury, wounded healer around how I express myself. And then that's really tied into how I'm moving forward. We also talk about this showing up in the world. So a lot of the key points around this have also been, the person that is here today and the career paths that we're on today may not be the same. There may be some differences on the other side of the eclipse. And in talking to some of my friends, I literally just had a conversation today where a friend of mine was like, I woke up this morning and I decided I was done and I want to do something different. And I don't want to deal with the rigmarole. I just want to help people. And I was just like, you are talking North Node eclipse to me right now. So it's just so fascinating how this comes through. So yeah, I've been experiencing this kind of release of whatever's going on in my throat chakra in a very physical way. And I felt my energy kind of go up and down like throughout the day. Like I'll wake up and have energy and it can be gone just like that. But I have been going out in the sun and just bringing in those codes, resting more. Like I wanted to do all this stuff. And then I just was like, nope, I'm just going to do the bare minimum because I'm integrating so much information and having so many downloads. And I realized too, because there's a part of me that's like, I want to do these things. I don't want to step back and relax. But when I do step back and relax, all of a sudden I feel a renewed energy to actually do the things that like I feel aligned with. So that's where I say if
Mm.
you're feeling tired and you're resisting it, fall back and allow yourself that space and then see what comes up on the other side cuz I'll feel like utterly exhausted and I'll either go outside in nature for a little bit or I'll take like a real quick nap, like 10 or 20 minutes. When I wake up, I have a really great idea about what I want to do and I do it and I just feel good. So it's encouraging us to let go of those extra busyness that we don't need anymore and doing just exactly what is helpful for us to move forward. And part of that too has been waking up at like 3 in the morning. So that's been
Mhm.
going on this entire eclipse window for me. And I use that as an opportunity to clear my chakras or to just address whatever's coming up. So I've been getting a lot of like repetitive memories or people showing up in my mind stream or remembering, relationships, friendships, interactions. And usually they're the ones that make me kind of twist inside. Like they're not the happy ones. Um, and what I've been doing is clearing myself, cutting cords several times a day. Like it's almost like, drink a glass of water, cut cords. Like it's a constant thing, but it's allowing my energy to stay buoyed up and when I cut those cords, I literally like send Reiki love to both sides. Like I'll cut it and send it to myself and send it to them. And not just in this lifetime, but we have past lives, we have other dimensional lives, we have other places, planets, all of that. So I just send that love and say, may it, infuse all dimensions, all realities, all timelines, all, past lives, future lives, whatever. And when I do that and I just hold it until I feel a release, then it's like it's gone. Like it doesn't keep coming up for more and more healing. And that was really a big shift for me because I was like, okay, ooh, it may take a little bit longer to shift this, but then I feel it fall away. So
Mm.
it's really been about clearing out all that clutter and all of those cords and sending it love and allowing it to heal on both sides so that we can both move forward. And that's really that has been the most pivotal thing is just frequent clearing, cord cutting, and healing around those old relationships. That has just been huge. It's really helped me.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, and I keep like a lot of times I'll get animal messages when stuff kind of floats by my window. So I'm listening, but if I see something, it's like, oh, what is that? Um, yeah, so two great points that you bring up. Like when we have this energy, we can tell that something is shifting, like internally, right? It's like I know something's coming, but it may not exactly be time for that thing to come in, right? Like we're having these realizations, but it's like the old things have to fall away. Something might need to shift to be able to set us up for the new thing that wants to come in. So eclipses, sometimes we will have these really drastic shifts around the time period of the eclipse, but it may just be this idea that comes in. So it's really important to journal during these time periods to notice like what are the themes that are coming up. Um, what is it that I desire more of in my life? What is it that I want to shift? And when I was pulling cards for y'all, it's like we get the patience, right? Having that patience and like just allowing things to unfold. We also get the death card, so that deep, deep transformation of allowing our bodies to rest. We don't realize how much our bodies are doing energetically, spiritually. We can kind of, I mean, I'll speak for myself, right? It's like, oh, why am I tired? I'm not even really doing that much. We are changing at a cellular level. Like I've, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember who, maybe my mentor. I read this somewhere where I won't even say where, y'all forgive me because I know I read a lot of stuff, but this resonated with me that we are like the first light beings that are going from 3D to 5D in the physical body, right? So it's like it is a lot of body stuff that comes up and like allowing ourselves those periods of rest because we are physically changing our DNA. I really should get better at crediting people. You're so good at it. Like you remember the person and the place, and I'm like, I know I read this somewhere. It's like it's a uh like a thrift store full of random information in my head.
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned that because when we look at the galactic, the sun is conjunct Tau Ceti, and which is a star in Cetus, and that is really around upgrading the DNA. So you're spot on with that. Like this is a cellular level shift in how we present ourselves to the world, but literally like we're changing our body and how we're presenting ourselves to the world.
Mm,
So that's where I have been feeling not just tired, like I've had stomach upset, I've been not hungry, and then all of a sudden ravenous. Like my body has constantly shifting needs. And I have also been taking lots of Epsom salt baths, and that
mm,
has been really, really good for my body. So that's where for I try to pay attention to my body in general, but specifically because this is really upgrading our DNA and a lot of shifting is happening, go out of your way to take care of the body. Get
mhm,
a massage, take some baths, be in water and allow that to cleanse you. Even when you're showering, we go back to that intentionality, washing off things are washing off. And I can even feel when I wake up in the morning, like stuff has like come out of me. So I'm just like, okay, let me clear first thing in the morning. And then just, crystals, holding crystals. I've also been going through the colors, like
mm,
sitting there and going through each color, like surrounding myself in each color of the chakras and letting it sit until the body feels really good with it. And that's been
mm,
really nurturing my body, just imagining the colors. So I would say go way out of your way to care for the body, to, feed the body good food, drink good water, whatever kind of healthy snacks or fruits or vegetables, like really be intentional about that, because it's going to help support the body. It's going to help you feel better. And when I'm
yeah.
doing this stuff, like that's why I would say I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling the eclipse. I'm feeling the shifts. And I also, like you said, Robin, I feel like something's coming into land. I don't quite know what it is, but I feel it coming. And I've also my perceptions. So last week I was traveling and the flowers, like the violet color on the flowers was shifting. Like I saw like iridescent violet colors. And I've been
Mhm.
noticing more physical awareness, like more awareness in my aura, like moving more almost from that space as opposed to my body. Like I'm becoming outside of my body. And I'm
Mhm.
also like, there's more physicality in my my guides and stuff. Like I really feel like there's another dimensional being that I'm interacting with. So it's okay if you feel like, you're becoming more aware because our third eye is really being activated. That is being activated strongly. So ground yourself and be okay. And that's where, for me, I always ask, whenever I feel like some kind of energy coming in, is this energy of the highest light and love? Is it here to assist me? And just being real clear about, what I'm interacting with and keeping my space clear and keeping my being clear. And it's also like, what is that first gut instinct? Like, oh, okay, this feels good. Or is it something that immediately you close down? So just being aware,
Mhm.
like our guides will respect us. So even if they're positive and we don't feel safe, we can say, I don't feel safe right now. So it's always important to be sovereign. And no matter what it is, if you don't feel safe interacting with it, I don't feel safe interacting with you right now. And just putting
Mhm.
that out there, having those clear boundaries, they will respect that. And if you feel like
Yeah.
the being is not respecting that, then they are not of the light. And that is something that you want to, get away from you.
Yeah. Um, so 2 points. I totally agree with you on the self-care. Like yesterday I had a massage and I went so deep and I feel like like it just I know how important getting massages is for my self-care, like especially during time periods like this. I felt, I was a little tired afterwards because I could tell how much I shifted during the massage, but it really felt beautiful to like allow myself to be supported in that way. So be curious about what it is that you need, right? If it's like I got outside and walked on the trail Sunday, so getting out to nature for me is also huge. It's like really giving yourself the time and the space for those things. The other thing that I've been working with the past couple of weeks is my dreams. Just because my dreams can be so prophetic for me, I can get lots of healing done. I can have lots of awareness come up. So before I go to sleep, like I'll just set an intention. So actually, that's my angels are like, tonight you probably just need to rest. You also need to have that balance because you can be doing so much spiritual work while you're sleeping and then kind of still wake up and feel a little bit tired or like groggy. So I definitely need to make my intention tonight to be rest because I've been feeling it yesterday and today. My body's just need, and I feel like it's almost time for my moon cycle as well. So um, that's another thing, right? If your moon cycle ends up linking up with um, the big moon cycle, you can it's even a more powerful time period for you. You can really use that energy to your benefit. I know a lot of times as women, we can, like look at it as a negative thing or like be really frustrated by it, but is actually a gift that it can allow you to really move through things, right? Because you're having that physical shedding. So again, like make sure you're nurturing yourself, like getting, that iron and like the things that your body needs. So you're really making sure that you're staying fueled up during this time period.
Yeah, and like you said with the moon cycle, the new moon is about new beginnings. So we're shedding some of the old, moving into the new. If your moon cycle is around that, then that's where you're moving. Like you're starting something new. For me, mine's around the full moon. So I'm at a completion and now it's like, okay, I've completed this cycle and now it's time to rest and purge out what no longer serves me. So really being once again intentional about our moon cycle, about the cycle of the actual moon and how we're moving into these eclipses. I know I had set some intentions like, okay, well, I would love some career changes. I would love some different things like that. And then I started getting real clear and I was like, what does my soul want? What does my
Mm,
soul want? And that's where it was like, like, am I just grasping for things to feel more comfortable in this body? Or am I really going after my heart's desire? And that's where when I tapped into that, it was like, I want to really be connected to my galactic family. I really want to feel in tune with that. I want to feel more aligned with those energies. So that's where it shifted. And it was like, click, like,
Mm,
this is really what this time is for me. And I think
mhm,
it's interesting too with that kind of sun, it's like eclipsing the personality in the 3D and allowing me to
mhm,
see where I exist, my higher self exists in other dimensions and what work am I doing. So that's where I would say too is if you're I it's always good to set an intention. And if it's not quite right, it's okay. Like go with that because the intention is to be in the highest alignment and when you set an intention, if it doesn't feel quite right, then you're going to seek more clarity. And when the right one comes in, then you're like, oh, this is it. So just keep, shifting as you become more and more alignment with those intentions. And that like supercharges us on our pathway. It really launches us because the divine is saying, oh, well, you really want to do things on purpose. You really want to be intentional.
mm.
So let us help you get into alignment around those intentions and move you forward with these energies. It's like you're being a good steward of the energies that are being given to us. And this is, I mean, I've never seen something like this where literally almost all of the planets are up here in Taurus, Aries, and Pisces. I think the only ones that we have, actually, it is, it's all of the planets except for Pluto. Pluto's in
Mhm.
Aquarius. Other than that, everything else is up there, all congested together. So that means huge changes in all these different areas and all these ways of showing up in our life. So this is significant.
And it's funny because the other thing that has been coming to me so strongly the last few weeks is like, instead of trying to, right, we all, don't get me wrong, I love a good, like, let me manifest, let me tell the universe what I want. But like, when we really get in alignment with like, what is actually the universe's highest will for me, right? Because our higher self, like our soul, came in and had these plans and created these plans for us, but sometimes our ego doesn't always want to match up with it, right? So aligning yourself to that like higher vision, which is very much that ninth house, um aligning with that can really kind of catapult you into the next level, right? Because you're taking the energy that's already there, you're taking your gifts, you're taking your natural trajectory in this world, and then you're aligning your will with it with the sun. Oh yeah, with the sun energy, like, right, that ego, that drive, and really kind of aligning the two so you're not fighting so much with like where your soul naturally wants to go, where the universe naturally wants to take you. I've really been feeling into that lately, like what is actually God's will for me, what is the universe's will for me. And obviously, like, I want, like you said, it's also good to see what I truly desire. But, right, typically those things are in very close alignment, but it's like allowing the universe to get us there in a way that we might not have otherwise um, tried to picture, right? It's like the thing or the end result will be the same, just how we get there. We have to kind of release that surrender and just allow life to unfold. Have you been feeling that lately as well, or?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the surrender. That is the whole surrender thing is being clear about what you want but not putting so many restraints on it. Like, okay, I would like to, you know, be more in flow with what I love doing and how I love being of service, like what I'm passionate about and how I can help humanity. Like that's where it's like that wounded healer thing. Like I want to really help humanity and the way that my gifts are there, like really being put in that place. And when we put that out there, then the universe says, okay, well, thank you because you didn't tell me what job that you have to have and all this. It's like I want to be able to use everything that I was given to the best of humanity. Okay, well we can make that work. And there's a lot of black hole magic when it comes into this where it's like it's not linear. It kind of goes in and out and moves all around and all of a sudden we're presented with something which didn't even make sense. It doesn't happen on a certain timeline, but it was manifested because we allowed it to let go. And those are
Mm,
the hugest moments that I've experienced is when I truly let go, when I truly 100% surrender, it can happen that quick. all
Yeah.
of a sudden outside of time and space, something that doesn't make any sense shows up. And enough of those have happened to me in my life that I'm doing that more and more. Like stuff can change from one minute to the next. And that's where I realize where I'm at right now is exactly where I'm supposed to be. If I wasn't supposed to be here, I wouldn't be here. So, what can I do to help this situation with the most with my gifts? Being thankful and grateful for this opportunity. And then also asking the universe to give me another opportunity that's less restrictive. Like, can I feel expansive in the way that I help others? And that's where I talk about clarifying intention. So my intention was this, like I manifested exactly where I'm at right now. I did because where I was before was more restrictive. So now I'm like, okay, I'm here and this is great. And I want it to be a little bit different. Like I need a little bit more freedom and a little bit more impact. And so it's like, okay, then we'll tune that in. The universe helps us as we refine and everything is bringing me more and more into alignment. Because one, I wouldn't have believed if I didn't hope and manifest so hard for this, I wouldn't have believed that I could have had it. So there's part of it of just because we want it, do we really believe we can have it? Like, and if
Hmm.
there's doubt in there, that's going to get in the way of our manifestation. So it's
Yeah.
okay. We're not doing anything wrong. It's just like, okay, we just get to refine it more and more and more. And as a result, move more and more into alignment. And that's what I can say when I look back at, like you said, the 7 year cycle, the 19-year cycle, there's things that are happening specific. Like I mentioned to you before, I was in a butterfly like museum where they had all these butterflies flying around. The next day I got a 7 years ago, you were doing the same exact thing in New Orleans. And it's like, whoa, there's a cycle going on here. And for me, so I thought back to that and I was like, okay, death and rebirth. I come back and I have a whole bunch of caterpillars climbing all around. So it's like, okay, I'm in this phase of growing, but these cycles are happening. And 19 years ago, there was a huge shift around my career. So I was like, I
Mm.
feel all of this in the air and I'm going to manifest closer and closer to my highest alignment. And we're here, we're in this body, so we haven't gotten it perfect. That's what I always say. People are like, well, I think I'm done. It's like, well, you're still in the body, so there's still things to do. And that's cool because like imagine all the work
Uh,
that we're doing in this 3D body. It's so difficult, but as a result, the ramifications and the energy from it is so huge. Like it's launching us really far along our spiritual evolution. So I say, okay, I've been given another day to do some work and help myself really gain a lot spiritually. So it's about
yeah.
the appreciation of exactly where we are because that's where we are and it's good and it's okay.
Yeah. And forgive me because I do remember where I heard the 7 year cycle with this eclipse. It was on a Matt Kahn talk on YouTube that he did with his wife about the energies of April 2024. And to be honest, sometimes I go down the rabbit hole and I research stuff, and then other times I'm like, I just needed to hear that for whatever reason. So as I was hearing those words about that 7 year cycle and how it ties back to 2017, I could really feel that truth in my body and was like really having an emotional release around it. So I sat down the other day and I wrote down like all of the things that happened in 2017, and I was like, holy crap! Like that was such a big year for me. Um, so right, it's important. Like if you hear these numbers, if you hear the 7 years or you hear the 19 years, and you're like, oh, around that time period, a lot was going on in my life. Like go back and kind of look at what has changed or what has shifted in those years. I know for me, like it's always helpful to go back and to look at those phases because right in our humanness we can forget how far we've come. We can forget, right? Because we get so stuck, we're like, oh, I'm still struggling with this or I'm still struggling with that. Yes, it's part of the human experience, right? With like going back and looking at, holy crap, I can't believe how much I've grown in the last 7 years. And also like the converse of that, right? If you feel like you haven't grown in some ways, like you can set that as your intention for this next chapter. Like, hey, universe, I find that I'm still struggling with relationships or my job or money or whatever it is, and just say I would like support with that as I move forward. And also, you're probably doing better than you give yourself credit for. um Right, because it's impossible to not change. Like every second we're sitting here, our bodies are changing, right? Like I'm getting older, I'm probably whatever it is, right? Like every moment of our lives, we are changing and shifting. So reminding yourself of that growth can be really just really pivotal. So if you're, if you want to learn more, I would definitely recommend that episode. It was a really beautiful episode, and just talking about the collective energies as a whole and like how they're shifting. So it was important for me to listen to that. If you resonate with it, find your way over. Do you want to share about the 19-year cycle? Was that one that you felt
Thank-
strongly about?
Yeah, the 19-year cycle, and I'm trying to remember where I heard it, and I don't remember, but it's 2005, and that one came up first, where I was like, okay, 19 years, that's a really long time. But it was when we had the Aries Libra axis, the nodal axis. And for me, I was like, okay, where was I going then? And that was a huge thing for me, shifting my career into more of an administrative role. And it was just like a big time where I felt like I was really stepping into something that was in alignment with me. And I've been feeling kind of it's interesting too, because it's good to look at those, because I've been feeling some of the same pangs that I was then. Like, oh, I really want to shift into a different role that's really going to be more in alignment with where I'm moving. And it's like, oh, so I'm having some of the same negative feelings, or kind of the same kind of rub, and this has the possibility for it to end up in the same way. So that's that trust and surrender into the universe of, it's like, oh, it's funny because that spiral, similar pangs to completely different situation, because since then I've gotten more education, and there's been so much growth in those 19 years. And here I'm still experiencing some of the same desires to kind of up level to the next level. So yeah, the cycles are interesting. And I highly recommend, like Robin said, think about where you were in 2005, what was not going well and what was going well. I had also like been on a long stint of being single, and decided to start getting into relationships again. So literally 19 years ago, almost every aspect of my life changed. I decided to
Mm,
change jobs. Or no, that was actually, yeah, that's true. I decided to change jobs. I changed relationships, like all of these things happened, and they were really good when I look back. Cause sometimes when we're making changes, we're like, there's a lot of change going on. And am I just being impulsive? And like, was this a good
mhm,
idea? And it's like, I don't know. But with me, I have so much in my eighth house around death and rebirth that I just kind of lean into it. I'm just like, let's do it. What are we, we'll see how it is on the other side. And usually I'm just so busy moving forward, I don't actually look back. This Mercury in retrograde is causing us to slow down and to look back. And when I do, I was like, you know what, Jessica? Both in the 7-year cycle and the 19-year cycle, I made so many good decisions. Like I used that energy to shift jobs, to even kind of shift careers, consider going back to school, changing relationships, changing where I was living and who I was living with. Like literally almost every area of my life changed. And it was such a huge like upgrade. And then like
mm,
I noticed, okay, there's period of years where things went on. With that 7-year cycle, same thing. House, relationship, like all this stuff changed at once. But it was like a
mhm,
huge up level where I'm like, oh, that's so great. Like I could breathe again. There was space. It's almost like
mm,
the crab molting, right? I had outgrown my shell, and now I'm breaking out of it and I can move forward. So that's what I recommend too, is like all these changes happen. Look back, see the good of it, see where you were and how it allowed you to grow and launch forward. And yeah, when there is constriction, it's like, okay, it's time to break out of that shell and move forward into something new. And it feels vulnerable. We don't have all of that comfort, but it can also be so expansive for us. So looking back at those times, allow that to encourage you. Like, I'm sure you did make some good decisions, and I'm sure you did things that helped move you along. And that really, like, I was like, wow, I'm really proud of myself because, in my 20s, I wouldn't say that I had it figured out, but I made a lot of really good decisions that helped get me to where I'm at now. So just being grateful for the lifetime that I've existed already, and my consciousness and my spirit kind of designing this whole existence for me. It's like, oh, I'm not all on my own, and a lot of things were predestined, and I'm happy for that because it's supporting me, even if it may have been
mm.
a challenging time.
Yeah, I love like what you were sharing about the impulsivity, because there is so much energy in Aries. It can be that impulsive energy, but because we have Mercury in retrograde, and because, right, like we said, eclipses kind of activate, and it can bring sudden changes during the time of the eclipse, but a lot of times it's like an awareness that comes in, or a new beginning that comes in, or like something that's starting. Give yourself the time and the space. If something comes in and you're like, oh, I don't want to be impulsive about this, like give yourself, the one of the greatest things that I did for myself was to stop feeling like I had to respond to things in the moment, like, and just telling people, hey, I need to get back with you, or let me pray about this, let me sleep on it. The thing that I believe is that if it's truly meant for you, like, you allowing yourself that time is not gonna make it leave your hands, right? If it leaves my hands, then that probably means it wasn't really for me anyway. So that's been like something that I've really gotten to work on, is like, all right, if I don't feel 100% about it, or if I feel like I need to sit on it and like get more comfort around it, allow yourself that. And this the same is on the flip side too, right? If you feel like you jump into something and you're like, oh shit, after I sat with it for a week, I'm like, actually, I don't want that. Don't feel bad about going back and saying, you know what, actually, I felt into it some more, and it's like it's not in alignment for me. We're allowed to have those, 'cause sometimes you don't fully understand something until you're in the energy of it, right? If it's a new job or relationship or whatever it is, like, obviously we want to learn from these things, but also like not feeling like you're kind of caged in if you make a decision and then it changes, because we are in Mercury retrograde, so it'll be there until the 24th of April. So it is a good time to kind of review different areas of our life, to review, right, it's review, reassess, like all the things that start with rest. Yeah.
100%. I mean, that's the thing, is we get to change our minds, and that's based on our alignment too. So it's not just, this isn't flippant. This is like, okay, I'm going to try this. And if it's not in alignment, then you make a different decision. So really encouraging yourself to feel into that alignment, whether that is to move forward or to wait. And maybe it does feel in alignment to move forward and that doesn't work out. And you're like, okay, this is not in alignment. So making decisions and seeking clarity around that and being okay. When you're clear, like when you have that knowing, the most important thing to do is to follow that knowing, follow that clarity. And that's where it's like, okay, you're trusting your intuition, you're following your clarity. And that's really going to be what propels you spiritually and in your evolution, in your ascension, is following the clarity wherever you see it. Because if you don't, then it's just like they're going to turn it up, they're going to turn up the volume. And that's what I've noticed too. It's like, if I'm not real clear, I'm like, okay, make it clear for me. And I'll actually ask for that. Make it clear for me. And sometimes I'll say, okay, please help make it clear for me. And it'll just disappear. It's like, well, that's real
Mhm.
clear. It wasn't meant to be. Or it'll show up like 2 or 3 more times. Like that's for
Yeah.
me. If something shows up 3 times in different situations with different people, I'm like, okay, this is a my thing. Like there's, if I'm
Mhm.
uncertain if it's me or the other person, and it's like 3 different situations with different people, I'm like, okay, this is mine. So let's work on
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And that's where, if it's an uncomfortable situation and we're clear that we shouldn't be in it, it's just, and that's where I say, make it real clear. It's going to get uncomfortable and we're going to want to get out of the kitchen because it's too hot. So that's kind of the greatest thing about this, is just seeking clarity and being able to sit with something long enough until we're clear about what the next move is. And spirit will support us with that. So it may not make everybody else happy around you, but that's part of honoring yourself and honoring the self-care, honoring your integrity, honoring your sovereignty, is doing what is the best thing for my higher self and my highest good and my alignment. And I used to be really rigid. Like I would say I was going to do something and I would do it, and I would expect everybody to be really rigid. And if not, it meant something. And when I allowed myself to have a little bit more space, and it was usually because other people were giving themselves that opportunity. And I'm like, well, I guess it wasn't such a big deal. Like, I had dinner plans. I can go to dinner by myself if I really want to. Um,
Mhm.
and honoring what I want to do, it gave me permission to be like, yeah, I get to cancel plans. And it felt really good to be like, I really want to spend time with you, but I'm exhausted tonight and I'm going to stay in. And just being able to have that flow, it allowed relationships to flow a little bit more, allowed me to be easier on myself. And then as a result, easier on everybody else. So everybody else
Mhm.
gets to have a break too. Like if we all honor ourselves, then when we show up together, we really want to be there and we're in a good place to do whatever it is that we're doing. I remember how many times I pushed myself to be in places and situations and I was grumpy. And, I'm like, nobody wants to be around somebody who's grumpy. So
Yeah.
by honoring ourselves, we're actually honoring other people and we're creating this flow. So it's just like removing some of that restriction that we've placed, self-imposed confinement, you know, allowing that flow. And if it's going to go, it's going to go. It doesn't matter how much you hold on tight, it is going to go. But I've also found in this time of shifting that there's some relationships where I'm like, well, I don't know. And they just stay. They just stay. Like that space allows them to just stay and to morph. And that is like one of the most beautiful things too. It's like as I open to experiencing all of these things that are happening, I realize like as much as I try to control stuff, it wasn't going to end up any different. And when I open and allow, things get to morph and be even more beautiful than they were before. So that's
Yeah.
also like this energy is allowing relationships and friendships and interactions to morph into something more beautiful, allowing our old expectations to fall off of them and to evolve.
Yeah, it's all about the evolution, right?
Hey, every day I wake up and I'm like, I want to do something that moves me, closer to the mark, whatever that is.
Yeah. I feel like I have shared everything that I want to. Is there anything else that's coming through for you that you would like to share that is?
For me, just the idea that for everyone to remember that they are amazing star beings, that we have so many guides and so many beings out there that want to help us and support us and to
Mm.
just relax. Like we are doing it. Our soul planned this and we're doing it. And these energies were planned to help us with these shifts. So just to be easier on ourselves, less pressure, more ease, and more enjoyment and creativity. And that's where I find as I let go and as I bring in more joy and creativity, like it shifts it. So that's this whole thing like we have to work towards enlightenment or ascension. It's not true. We get
Mhm.
to play towards it. We get to enjoy. This is an enjoyment zone. In
Yeah.
these bodies, we get to experience all five senses. We get to experience this beautiful world. So enjoy and play towards ascension and enlightenment and take life a little bit lighter each day and see what gifts get bestowed upon you. See how the universe is supporting you because we're all doing it and it's pretty amazing. And this is, like Robin said, this is an amazing time to be a human being and to be on this earth. We're seeing this 3D to 5D ascension. We chose to be here to see it. So it's like you're going to this beautiful firework display. So sit back and enjoy it and allow yourself to be blessed by this beautiful display of ascension and spiritual evolution happening and unfolding in front of us. Like it's truly mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really like the more that we can open ourselves up to that, like you said, that sense of play and like it's happening anyway, right? The planets are doing their things, we're getting triggered, it's all fucking happening anyway. Like you might as well find the joy and the levity where we can and have that have as much fun as we can while we're here. It doesn't need to be quite so serious. And I'm not negating anybody's challenges, right? Like I'm not saying that you're not what's the word? That you can't have your feelings around it or that those aren't important, but also like remember to bring the play and the levity to it as well. Cause it's happening whether we try to do something or not. Like it's all unfolding for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. You have an amazing time, and our next episodes are going to be around Chiron. So get ready to dive deep into Chiron and the Wounded Healer, which will come out after our eclipse.
Bye.
I can see the stars align, dance around the moon every night. And now my eyes are open wide, and the sky has never looked so bright. And I don't need to see the road to believe, to believe.